Alice's life had taken a harsh turn when her parents died in a tragic car accident. At just 15 years old, she was sent to live with her mother's older sister, Aunt Bose. To the outside world, Aunt Bose was a respectable woman, known for her charitable donations at church and her big smiles at community events. But behind the closed doors of her luxurious mansion, Bose was a devil in human form. Alice was no stranger to hard work, but what awaited her in Bose's home was beyond anything she could have imagined. From the very first day, she was relegated to the role of a servant. "Your parents left nothing for you," Aunt Bose spat coldly on Alice's first morning in her new home. "You should be grateful I took you in. From now on, you earn your keep." And so, Alice's life became a nightmare. She woke up before dawn every day to clean the house, cook the meals, and run endless errands. Her cousins, Tola, KY, and the youngest, Bimbo, joined in on the abuse. They called her names, spilled food deliberately just to make her clean it up, and mocked her whenever Aunt Bose wasn't looking. But not AY. The oldest cousin, AY, was different. He was kind, often sneaking extra food to Alice when his mother wasn't watching and whispering words of encouragement. "Don't worry, Alice," he would say. "Someday, this will all change." One day, while scrubbing the marble floors, Alice overheard Aunt Bose talking on the phone. She sounded frantic, her usual confident tone replaced by panic. "I told you not to call this line," Bose hissed. "If anyone finds out where the money came from, we're finished." Alice's ears perked up. Money? What money? She had always assumed Aunt Bose's wealth came from her businesses. This conversation planted a seed of curiosity in Alice's mind, but she knew better than to ask questions. The next morning, as Alice carried a basket of laundry, Tola tripped her on purpose. The basket flew out of her hands, scattering clothes everywhere. "Clumsy orphan." Tola sneered, laughing with KY and Bimbo. Alice clenched her fists, but she didn't retaliate. She simply knelt to pick up the clothes, her mind racing with thoughts of escape. Late one night, after everyone had gone to bed, Alice sat in the dimly lit kitchen, her hands trembling as she held a letter she had found tucked into one of her mother's old books. It was from her father, addressed to her mother, dated a few months before the accident. A trust fund. Alice's heart raced. Could it be true? She realized that Aunt Bose must have known about this money all along. Could that be why she treated her so poorly, to keep her ignorant and dependent? Alice couldn't confront Aunt Bose without proof, so she decided to confide in AY. One evening, while the others were out, she showed him the letter. "AY, do you think it's true that there's money meant for me?" AY read the letter, his face darkening. "If it's true, then my mother has a lot to explain. But we need to be careful, Alice. She's not someone to cross lightly." They decided to search Aunt Bose's office. That night, after Bose went to bed, they crept into her study. Alice's hands shook as she rifled through drawers and papers. Then she found it, a bank statement with her name on it. Her heart sank. The balance was enormous. Millions. This was her money, yet she had been living like a slave. The next morning, Alice waited for Aunt Bose in the living room, the bank statement clutched tightly in her hand. When Bose finally appeared, her face twisted in anger at the sight of Alice sitting instead of working. "What do you think you're doing?" she barked. Alice stood, her voice steady. "I know the truth, Aunt Bose. This money was meant for me." She held up the statement. Bose's face turned pale, then red with fury. "How dare you go through my things, you ungrateful brat?" "This is theft," Alice said, her voice growing stronger. "You've been stealing from me all these years while treating me worse than a dog." The room fell silent. Tola, KY, and Bimbo had gathered, their faces a mix of confusion and shock. Even AY, who had encouraged her, looked uneasy. But Bose wasn't done. "If you think anyone will believe you, you're a fool," she sneered. "Who are you going to tell? The police? The community? No one cares about a penniless orphan." Alice felt a wave of despair but quickly realized she had one ally, AY. That night, he came to her with a plan. "We'll go to the bank," he whispered. "If we can prove your identity, they'll have to hand over the money." But getting to the bank was no easy task. Aunt Bose rarely let Alice leave the house, and when she did, it was always under close watch. Early the next morning, AY faked a severe stomach ache, distracting his mother long enough for Alice to slip out. She ran as fast as she could, her heart pounding with fear and hope. At the bank, she presented the letter and her identification. The manager's eyes widened as he verified her claims. "This account has been dormant for years," he said. "But it's yours, Miss Alice. I'll initiate the transfer immediately." Just as Alice was about to leave the bank, Aunt Bo stormed in, her face a mask of rage. "You think you can just take that money?" she shouted, grabbing Alice's arm. "You're nothing without me." But Alice stood her ground. "I don't need you, Aunt Bose. You've done nothing but hurt me. This money is mine, and I'm taking it." The bank manager intervened, threatening to call security if Bose didn't leave. Defeated, she stormed out, but not before vowing revenge. With her newfound wealth, Alice moved out of Aunt Bose's house and rented a small but cozy apartment. She enrolled in school, determined to build a life for herself. AY visited her often, bringing news of his mother's downfall. "She's lost everything," he said one day. "The church found out about the money she stole, and the community has turned against her." Alice felt a pang of pity but quickly reminded herself of all the pain Bose had caused. She chose to focus on her future instead of her past. Months later, Alice discovered another letter among her mother's belongings. This one revealed the source of her family's wealth. Her father had invested in a groundbreaking technology years ago. It had made him a millionaire, but he had kept it secret to protect his family from greedy relatives. Alice couldn't help but laugh at the irony. Aunt Bose's greed had blinded her to the fact that she could have been part of a family legacy if she had treated Alice with kindness. In the end, Alice's resilience and determination led her to a life of independence and success. And though she forgave AY for his family's actions, she vowed never to let anyone take advantage of her again. As for Aunt Bose, she was left with nothing but regret, a fitting punishment for her years of cruelty.